Hello, welcome back to our series on Bible Nuggets. I'm Andy Blalock, joined by Brother Kriss Hammond.
Hello again.
Good to see you, as always. And our theme verse, as you know, is Matthew 4:4. Bible says, "But he answered and said, It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God."
That's right. And one of the categories that we try to cover in our Nugget series is looking at what we would call seemingly unimportant details.
I like those.
In a story, we show just how very important those details can be. Yeah. Today, we're going to throw a little bit of a twist into that.
Yeah.
Okay? And we're not going to talk about a seemingly unimportant detail so much, but rather a seemingly unimportant person in a story.
Ooh, I like that, man. I like that a lot. So for today's nugget, we're going to go back to the book of 2 Kings, chapter 5. And Brother Hammond, I believe this is a story that is familiar to most of our listeners. It's the story of the healing of a man named Naaman. And Brother Kriss, can you be so kind to summarize that story for us?
Well, I'll do it. All right. So the story is really set up for us in the first verse, if you will, of 2 Kings 5. Let me read that for you. It says this. It says, "Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper." Those last 5 words make up all the difference in this story.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And before we find out that he was a leper, we see that he was a pretty important man in Syria. But you have to remember, Syria was the world power at that time. And he was the military leader of that world power. This is an important dude.
He was. We might call him today the BMOC. You know what that is? The big man on campus, okay? But as big as he was, all of that was to no avail because of those last 5 words. But he was a leper. Naaman had a death sentence.
Yeah.
His death would be predictable. It would be painful, and it would be soon.
Yeah.
All because of this terrible disease. Let me ask you this, Brother Andy. How many people, at this point in history now, how many people had been healed of leprosy?
It's an easy answer. It is absolutely none. He had no hope whatsoever. But, Brother Kriss, he's holding out on us. Please finish the rest of the story.
Okay. So Naaman ends up seeing Elisha, the prophet of God. And Elisha instructs him to go and wash in the river Jordan 7 times, and he would be cleansed of his leprosy. But Naaman, he doesn't like Elisha's instruction.
No.
You know? Naaman is expecting, some kind of miracle work. I think he's looking for Benny Hinn or somebody like this. He's expecting Elisha to make a big show of it and cure him right there on the spot.
Yeah.
But that's not what Elisha tells him. Naaman, he leaves in a huff, but to his good, that he had some advisors, he had some staff.
Thank goodness.
That finally talked him in to just go to Jordan and wash.
Yeah.
And he does, and sure enough, just like Elisha prophesied, he was healed, he was cleansed.
Yeah. And by the way, important to note that the Lord tells us that in the New Testament that Naaman is the only person healed of leprosy during those times. That is, of course, until Jesus comes on the scene and heals many people of leprosy. That's why we think of that, because of what Christ does. So then, Brother Kriss, with this seemingly unimportant detail, or rather, who is this seemingly unimportant person here in this story?
Well, I'll get there, but let me remind our listeners of the 2 nations discussed here in the story.
Yeah.
There's the nation of Israel, which are at this time the 10 northern tribes. This is many years after the kingdoms divided between Israel and Judah. And then there's Syria, the world power, as you mentioned at this point, and they're a neighboring country. But they're also a country that has militarily defeated Israel and comes time after time after time to take captives, to take the bounty of the land. And and steal the crops and really simply to kill and maim them. They're the enemies of Israel.
Absolutely, it's true. So it seems more than fairly merciful that Elisha would even see Naaman. In fact, the king of Israel thinks it's an attempt by the king of Syria to find fault with Israel, spying. But why is this detail important?
Well, to see that, let's go back towards the beginning of the chapter, verses 2 through 4 in this chapter. In fact, I'll read that for us here. Yeah. It says, "And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. And one went in and told his Lord, saying, Thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel."
Yeah. So you see here this little maid, she was taken captive and brought back as a slave to Syria. She ends up being a slave in Naaman's house and serves Naaman's wife.
She does. But think about this. How was she taken captive? We know from history what would have happened in most of these cases. More likely than not, her parents were killed.
Yeah.
And she was snatched away as a slave. In fact, it's very possible that she saw Naaman or his soldiers kill her parents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, think about this. If anyone has reason to absolutely hate Naaman, it's this little maid.
Oh, yes. And now that Naaman has leprosy, what she must be thinking is, aha, this is the justice of God coming down on Naaman. What he did to me and my family and my people, he's getting what he deserves. Now, I think that's what, let's be honest, most of us would be thrilled that Naaman, or in today's terms, that Osama bin Laden of his day, was struck with leprosy. He's going to die a painful death. And you know what? He deserves it.
It's true, he does deserve it.
Yeah.
But so do I.
Yeah.
So do you.
Amen.
And this little girl, this little maid, with incredible mercy in her heart, she sees past the racial hatred of the day.
Yeah.
She sees past the murder of her parents. And what does she do? She tells Naaman how he can be healed of his leprosy.
Yeah. And not only does she show mercy, but she also shows incredible faith. Remember, no person has ever been cured of leprosy before. And she tells Naaman that if you go see Elisha, he'll heal you.
That's right. Think about this. If she's wrong, that's probably a death sentence for her.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But with incredible faith and mercy, she reveals to Naaman the cure for his sickness.
She must have been pretty reliable, had a testimony before that. Otherwise, who on earth would believe someone like this, right? Like, go away, little girl. Who are you fooling? This is just a slave.
Right. Well, they believed her probably because she had never given them a reason not to believe her.
That's good.
In the past. She reveals to Naaman the incredible cure for his sickness. Just like we, really with the same type of mercy and faith, we should reveal to a lost world the incredible cure for the sickness of their soul.
Yeah.
Saving faith in the finished work of Christ on Calvary.
Amen. What a story and what a nugget of mercy. This seemingly unimportant person in this story, she really is, if you think about it, Brother Kriss, she's the hero.
She is
of this hero. And what a blessing that is to us and God's mercy. So we hope this was a blessing to you as well. And we hope you tune in next time for our next Bible Nugget. Until then, have a wonderful day and God bless.
God bless you.